morning, everyone. We are beginning our new unit, historical fiction, today. This year is going to be our read aloud. I want to talk to you about what historical fiction is. Historical fiction, let's think about that. Historical, thinking back on history, some events that are based on history. Fiction, we know, is books that are made up stories. So a historical fiction is a made up story that actually takes place or includes events that actually happened in our history. And so that's what our study is going to be about. And so the book that we're going to be using for the read aloud is called Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. And I wanted to give you a little bit of a background about the story before we begin. So a little bit of a research that I have done, I wanted to share with you. It says Number the Stars is set mainly in Copenhagen, Denmark. And I wanted to show you on our map right here, this is where Denmark is. Denmark, it took place in Copenhagen, Denmark in 1943. There was a war that was going on throughout Europe and Asia, and who was the people behind the war was the German forces. They were commanded by a man called Adolf Hitler, and some of you may have heard about him. He was leading a campaign in Europe to get rid of all the Jewish people. And at the time that Number of Stars was written in Denmark, there were about 8,000 Jewish people living in Denmark at the time. In 1943, the Danish people heard about what the Germans were doing. They were arresting these Jewish people and putting them into what they call ghettos. And that's what we're going to hear about in our book, these ghettos that they were being put into. And so these people in Denmark, the Danish people, they banded together. These were just citizens of Denmark, and they got together and they formed what they called the Danish resistance. And these people helped the Jewish people get across the sea to Sweden. And so I'm going to zoom in, see if you'll notice where Sweden is. So here's Denmark, and this here is the lower southern part of Sweden. I'm going to zoom in so that you can see where we're talking about. And so remember I told you that it's taking place in Copenhagen, Denmark. And here is Copenhagen. And so we're talking about this part of the sea in here. And so this is where the setting of our story, Number the Stars, takes place. Okay, I want to read the introduction to you. That Lois Lowry wrote. It says, "It's hard to believe that I wrote Number the Stars more than 20 years ago. It seems like yesterday that I answered the phone on a snowy January morning and received the news that I had been awarded the 1990 Newbery Award. Most books published that long ago had faded into the pleasant, undisturbed retirement of undusty library shelves, or became an occasional topic for a research paper. But Number the Stars seems to have acquired its own long and vibrant life. Not a day goes by that I don't hear from a passionate reader of the book, and some of them parents who remembered it from their childhood and are now reading it to their own children. I think readers of every age match themselves against the protagonists of the books they love. Would I have done that? They ask themselves as they follow a fictional character through a novel. What choice would I have made? And 10, the age of Anne-Marie in Number the Stars, and the approximate age of most of the book's readers, is an age when young people are beginning to develop a strong set of personal ethics, just like you. They want to be honorable people. They want to do the right thing. And they are beginning to realize that the world they live in is a place where the right thing is often hard and sometimes dangerous and frequently unpopular. So they follow a story about a girl their age caught in a frightening situation who must make decisions. She could take the easy way out. She could turn her back on her friend. As the readers of Number the Stars grow older and read other Holocaust literature, they'll find that many people in other countries, not Denmark, did just that. Young readers rejoice when Anne-Marie takes a deep breath, enters the woods, faces the danger, stands up to the enemy, and triumphs. When the book was newly published, it found its way into the hands and hearts of children who had read about never experienced war. Now, sadly, I have heard from young readers who have lost a parent or an older brother in Iraq or Afghanistan. We all know how easy it is and how futile to blame and to hate. I think the history of Denmark has much to teach us all. The book has been published in many countries now, translated in countless different languages from Hungarian to Hebrew. And everywhere children are still reading about everywhere children are still reading about the integrity that a small Scandinavian population showed almost 70 years ago. Books do change lives, I know, and many readers have told me that Number the Stars changed theirs when they were young, that it made them think about both cruelty and courage. It was something that shaped my idea of how people should be treated, wrote a young woman recently, recalling her own fourth grade experience with the book. The Danish friend who originally told me the story of her own childhood in Copenhagen in 1943 and who became the prototype for the fictional Anne Marie is now an old woman. And so am I. We both love thinking of children reading the story today, coming to it for the first time and realizing that once, for a brief time and in a small place, a group of prejudice-free people honored the humanity of others. Written by Lois Lowry. I'm going to stop our video here. And what you're going to do is once you finish this, click into the first chapter of Number the Stars. See you in a few minutes.